Quitting your 9 to 5 sounds like an absolute dream until you realise you've got bills to pay, and then it seems a lot more like a nightmare. I feel like a lot of people make the mistake of quitting too early and then being in a little bit of a rut and potentially just getting another job to replace a job they just quit, and then being in that constant cycle and never really being self-sustained. Or you take the other route whereby you plan too much and you never leave the job because you're so worried about having everything perfect before you leave. You don't want to do either of these things. Like, you want to find a middle ground, and I'm going to try and help you find that middle ground and take some actionable steps towards being fully self-employed. I spoke about in my last video that I've actually never really had like a full-time 9 to 5. However, I have had part-time things that I've had to quit and phase out, which is what I'm going to speak about more in this video. But it definitely applies whether you've got a full-time job, whether you've got a part-time job, you can definitely still use this tactic. So let's get into it. Now, the worst thing in my opinion that you can do is quitting too early. I feel like I say it's the worst thing, but it's not really the worst thing, because I'm also a big believer in take risks and prosper. So it's not the worst thing, but it's the worst thing if you want to be responsible. Do not quit too early without an actual plan. At minimum, you want to have at least a plan. In a perfect scenario, you've already got clients, you've already got your business plan, you've already got things in place, you already know how things are kind of going to move, and you've forecasted things to go a certain way. That would be best case. We don't always get to that position. I think that's okay. But quitting with no plan at all and just being like, I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quit my job even though I've got bills, is crazy. Don't do that. I also feel like if you do it that way, it just applies more pressure on you to make the self-employed thing work or the business venture work. And you don't necessarily need that pressure, especially at the beginning. You still want it to be fun, because in the fun is when you start to like be able to have enough room to identify things that maybe went really well, things that are not going so well. When you're just in a pressurized environment, just having to make it work, need to make it work, you're so tunnel vision sometimes that you don't necessarily see ways that you can pivot, and sometimes that pivot is essential to success. So don't quit too early. I also feel like you don't want to quit without having some savings, so just like an emergency fund in any case scenario. This doesn't have to be large, it's going to be very dependent on where you're at and how much bills you have and stuff like that. If you're at home living with parents, this is a perfect scenario because you can save a lot easier and you've got probably a lot less expenses. If you are living on your own, you've got like major bills to pay, maybe rent, mortgage, these things, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer to build like an emergency fund, and the emergency fund that you will have to build is going to be a little bit bigger than someone living at home with their mum. But just bear that in mind. Even if you never need to use it, it gives you that breathing space to know, okay, worst case scenario, I've got this part of money to fall back on. That's tip number 2 for me. Now, when it comes to actually quitting, my advice is to phase out your income and replace it with your new business venture. So just for easy numbers, let's say you earn £2,000 a month from your 9 to 5. I would work on first earning £1,000 a month from your new business venture or self-employment or whatever you're doing on the side. Once you've got to £1,000, make sure that your time that you're spending at your job and the time that you're spending on your own thing are either equal or more heavily weighted towards your business venture, so that you can quite easily see, okay, I'm earning half my money from this and half my money from this, and the time is also equal. And then that way you basically work backwards in just replacing this other £1,000 that you've got with your job. So it might be, okay, to earn this extra £1,000 with my business venture, I need to sell 10 products, or maybe it's I need to find 2 clients, or whatever that is, and you can just focus on that. Reverse engineer your goal, figure out what amount you need to replace, and then reverse engineer it so that you know exactly how much product you need to sell or how much service you need to sell or whatever that thing is for your business to get to that number. Once you've got to that number, quit. Quit. That is how you quit. So for me, I had a part-time job. I was working 3 days a week, and then the rest of the week I was working on my own thing. It got to a point whereby I had started making way more money just doing my self-employed stuff than I was at the part-time job, and the money I had made at the part-time job, I can't remember how much it was, but for the sake of the video, say £1,000, I'd also managed to make that on top. So it's kind of like, I don't really need this. It looks like extra money in a way, but actually those 3 days a week I'm at this part-time job is taking me 3 days a week away from my business venture. Basically what I'm saying is I could use the 3 days more wisely and pour into my business venture and probably end up way more, and did end up earning way more than I was the 3 days a week at my part-time job. So that is how I reverse engineered and end up quitting the part-time job. Perfect strategy. Now this one is mainly aimed at the service-based businesses, and if you're a service-based business, I would highly recommend having consistent clients first. So it's not enough to just have clients here and there and you're getting enough work here and there but nothing's consistent. I would work on trying to get clients that are on a retainer that you know are going to be there for a set amount of months, 6 months preferably. And this is because when I first started going self-employed, a lot of my money was coming from modelling, and while I was getting consistent money from modelling, it was sporadic in the sense that if you was to split how much I was earning over 6 months, it would probably equal out a decent amount. But if you used to look, 1 month I'd probably have one job which was maybe £500. That is inconsistent. Another month that might have been 2.5 grand or something like that. I definitely feel like there is an importance on making sure you've got a client that you work with on a consistent basis, and even better that they're on a retainer so that you know exactly how much to expect every single month. And one thing thing I would do differently if I was to do it again now is making sure that I had that sooner, because it would just save a lot of stress later on. What I mean by that is you might have a client that pays you £200 a month and you've got them on a contract that says it will last for 6 months. So you know for 6 months you've got one client that is going to pay you £200 a month. For you to feel comfortable and for that to be sustainable, you might need 10 clients on £200 a month, or you might need 2 clients on £1,000 a month. It really depends on obviously the price of your service that you're offering or product that you're offering, and you know, your business and all that stuff. But in general, try and definitely get clients on a retainer, just that you know, especially when you're building, that okay, cool, I can make a little bit of mistakes for the 6 months. I can kind of like, while I'm adjusting to having a new schedule and adjusting my organization and getting on top of being a business owner, I've got a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of breathing space for 6 months, because I know that my rent is locked in and paid for, because this client has no choice but to pay for 6 months as long as I deliver the service. So that is something I would do differently. I did do that eventually, but I feel like I just would have done it sooner. Essentially, there's no harm in doing it. And also it often meant that because I got used to having to complete that client's work in a certain amount of time, I was just able to make a lot more money, because I'm always going to make time for this client that is every single month. It's not like it's, you know, dropped in at the end of the month and I got to complete in a week. Like, I know it's coming in advance, so I could get it done in advance, and it just frees up more time to make more space and more time for other clients. So it meant more money essentially. But yeah, quitting your job is definitely no easy feat, and I'm sure it's very difficult, and I feel like the more established you are in life and the more you have to lose, the more scary it is. But I would just say it's only as hard as you make it. Like, reverse engineer, nothing is set in stone and nothing is guaranteed. Not even your current 9-to-5 job is guaranteed, it could be gone tomorrow. I'd rather take the gamble on myself, and I'd rather you took the gamble on yourself to know that it's in your control how much clients you find this month and how much clients you find next month and how much clients you get on a retainer, more importantly. So yeah guys, good luck quitting your jobs. I feel like it doesn't have to take you long either. I want to know, what is your plan? Do you have a 6-month plan? Do you have a 3-month plan? Do you have a 1-month plan? You're trying to quit your job by the end of the month? Girl, you can do it. I know you can. I believe in you. So yeah guys, happy quitting. Thank you for watching this video. You might want to watch the last video, which is all about my self-employment journey, and the next video coming up will be all about organisation, so how I stay organised and how I use calendar blocking, which has been a game changer for me. Like, it's literally changed my life. I could not live without calendar blocking. I feel like this was a really quick video, but I just wanted to touch on the subject. If you've got any more questions about quitting, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. If not, feel free to check out my last video. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.